Bonjour, hello, welcome to Mac's Mountain World. Bonjour, hello. For this video, you join me in my garage. Now something's missing. It would happen to be the Saxo. It ain't here. It's down the bottom of the mountain in the Citroen garage. I put it down there to get it serviced, to get a couple of minor issues dealt with. One was to a little fog light underneath one of the lenses was cracked. So I got that sorted. Just replace it, get a new one. I also had a sometimes intermittent fault with the indicators. The indicators occasionally didn't work. They determined that this was a faulty relay, replaced it, no problem. Also, the wipers occasionally had a little hiccup, they wouldn't park properly, etc. And that was down to apparently a faulty earth connection. No problem. 3 little things sorted. So the service, basically I said to them, do the fluids, do the filters, spark plugs, whatever it needs. Get it running properly. And I happened to mention to them that I'd been experiencing cold start problems. Now this started out a while back when I hadn't used it for 10 days or something, and the first time I fired it up, it was just rough for the first few seconds. And this progressively got to the stage where if I didn't use it for a couple of days, it did that. And then it reached a stage where every cold start it was rough to start up with. So here's an update on that one, which is quite interesting. They've determined that they reckon it's sticky valves, inlet exhaust valves inside the engine. And a number of reasons in theory for this. One, I don't hammer the car. I do now and again give it a little bit of a burn, but most of the time I'm driving it pretty sensibly. And also the fact that it's an automatic, it tends to use more torque than power. It tends to run at lower revs, and I kind of accept that. That's okay. I can drive a bit faster. Also, I said to him, well, what else? And he said, well, it's maybe the fact that we're up at an altitude here, like at the bottom of the mountain. In the valley, it's about 800 metres altitude. Up here, it's at 1800. So there's the lack of oxygen, the lack of pressure thing and all that. Fine, no problem. Problem solved. Make sure you run it on the higher octane fuel, he said. Okay, sorted. I'll do that. I have been running on 98 octane fuel. Now here starts an interesting part of this, where when it started having this cold start problem, I was beginning to think maybe I should be using the normal juice on it. And I started doing that. The problem progressed and whatnot. So he said, well, no, it's good for it to run it on the higher octane juice. It'll run slightly hotter, it'll run slightly better. So I'm going to go back to doing that. But he said, also, I'm not the only one. Now, what's been happening here? A while back, the French government, in all of its wisdom, decided to reduce the national speed limit on normal roads, what in the UK we term as A and B roads, from 90 kilometres an hour, which is 56 miles an hour, to 80 kilometres an hour, which is 50 miles an hour. And apparently there's a lot of vehicles suffering from this valve problem because they're just not being run fast enough for what the car's been designed for. Okay, on motorways, not everyone runs about motorways. I have one motorway near me here, 30 kilometres away. And in the dry, you can do 130. Now, I generally, if I use that, which is only maybe about 4, 5, 6 times a year, I'll run about 110, 120. You know, goodness sakes, it's a speed limit. It's not a speed stipulation. So the car seems to run fantastic between 110 and 120. It's easier driving, doesn't take much longer for a trip. But the majority of the driving's on these A and B type roads. And as such, this reduction in the speed limit has nearly wrecked the engine in my car. So the guys said, well, we can treat this. There's a pretty good chance, about a 95% chance, that we put this special fluid stuff into the fuel, top it up with 98 juice. Now, I've actually handed the car to them with it nearly empty. It's just kind of almost that light on thing. So when I get it back, you'll have the juice in it. I'll put full tank of 98. I'll run it down to this local motorway of mine and I'll thrash the guts out of it. I know that the engine's bulletproof normally, so it shouldn't be a problem. I shouldn't break anything doing it. I'll do a little video on that one as well. But effectively, the French government nearly wrecked the engine in my car. My 17-year-old Eck, the Saxo. How wrong is that? So the latest update would be that I put the car in last Tuesday to the garage, and Wednesday was Wednesday morning. They cold started it and found all that stuff. Thursday was a public holiday, and they did one or two things, and they kind of Friday, yesterday, they've gotten the wheels in motion, as it were, no pun intended, to get it finally get this engine worry sorted out. So we've got this weekend. They did ask if I wanted the car back for the weekend, but no, I've been walking about the mountain and stuff. Don't really need it. I prefer to get it back after they've dealt with it rather than during. So I should get it back Tuesday, Wednesday next week, and the instructions are to take it down the motorway, give it a damn good thrashing. I don't need to be told this twice. This takes me back, a little diversification here, takes me back to a couple of years after I passed my driving test, and I used to live in Scotland about 20 miles outside of Edinburgh. And one day I had to drive my dad into town, and he turned out he was a bit late. So as we were leaving, he said, "Put the foot down, will you?" No problem. Up until that point, he did not know that I had actually, on my own account, taken on board some racing training. I actually frightened the shit out of him. So, yeah, you only need to tell me once. Drive fast, I'll do it. I can do it. I've done various things. I've done rally driving, stock cars, I've done all sorts. I've test-driven fast cars. So, yeah, as such as well, I'll just add that in my 42 years legally on the road, I haven't had an accident, touch wood. So, very confident that it shouldn't be a problem to take the Saxo down to the motorway and just gun it. But what's really got me a bit peeved is this speed limit thing, which apparently the Gilets Jaunes demonstrations in France have persuaded the government to reinstate the 90. I hope so. As in Britain, 70 miles on the motorway, everyone does 80. Here, everyone does in a 90 zone 100. In the 80s, it's been kind of a bit different because they've had to put up new signs, new speed cameras and all sorts to replace ones that the Gilets Jaunes have destroyed, but also new camera systems and everything. So I've been ultra cautious, and I've effectively dropped my speed by 20 kilometres an hour, which has been the heart of the problem. So the long and the short and the tall of this is that this scenario has occurred because of the drop in the speed limit. Brilliant idea by the French government. I mean, what the